Welcome to this meeting of the Cochise County Planning and Zoning Commission. Let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all, Christine.
Thank you very much. I'd like to read the ground rules for this meeting. Please turn off cell phones or silence your ringers. Also, please be polite to other stakeholders. No applause, no booing, no cheering. If you are attending in person and wish to speak, fill out a speaker information form and give it to the planning staff. Forms are on the table next to the door. The commission chair will call you at the appropriate time. If you are attending online and wish to speak, raise your hand in the Teams chat and provide your name, address, and agenda item number you would like to address. The commission chair will call you at the appropriate time. Please mute your microphone until called. In-person speakers must come to the podium when called by the commission chair. Use the microphone to capture your comments. Each elected county supervisor appoints 3 commissioners to staggered 4-year terms. Up to 3 commissioners are from cities. At least 6 commissioners are from unincorporated areas. A commissioner's service is pro bono. A quorum is 5 commissioners. Special use dockets are approved by this commission. A majority vote passes a motion. A tie vote triggers a rehearing at the next meeting. Appeals of special use decisions are heard by the Board of Supervisors. Appeal procedures can be found on the county's website. For additional assistance, contact Development Services. Dockets other than special use requests result in a recommendation forwarded by the Commission to the Board of Supervisors. A majority vote passes a motion. A tie vote fails. To voice an opinion regarding a recommendation, you may attend the Board of Supervisors public hearing. We observe the following time limits. 3 minutes for call to public, 10 minutes for applicant statement, 3 minutes for supporters or those opposed, and 5 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would like to take roll call. Christine Zumis. Here. Thank you. Mr. Montgomery.
I'm present.
Mr. Benedict.
Present.
Mr. Umbries.
Present.
Mr. Gonzalez, are you with us on Teams? Not yet. Ms. Fickett? Here. Mr. Tucker?
Here.
And Mr. Saunders? Chair Depew is present. We have a quorum. Next, we would like to approve last month's minutes. Is there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, let's do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I abstain. Thank you, Ms. Fickett. All right, then. This is a time for call to public pursuant to ARS Section 38-431. A public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body. I do not have any forms. Is there anyone online? Hearing none, we will move on. The first item is Special Use 26-05. BJ Real Estate at Skyline Road, Benson. Is the applicant present? Yes. Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, to approve this docket?
Madam Chair, I move to approve docket SU 2605 with conditions of approval recommended by staff. The factors in favor constituting the findings of fact.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. Umbries, thank you. Mr. Taylor, your report on this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This is the staff presentation for docket SU 2605, a special use authorization request to allow the sales and display of prefabricated housing at 2794 West Skyline Road. The property is located to the west of Benson. Again, the applicant is BJ Drilling Company, care of Tammy Castry. Parcel number is 12407-003 Alpha and totals about 10 acres. The property is zoned rural and the comprehensive plan designations are also rural. The site houses a current well drilling business, which is a legal non-conforming use that dates back pre-zoning regulations for the county. The proposed special use, again, is to allow prefabricated housing sales and display. Property, again, is located on Skyline Road, just west of I-10 exit 299. The applicant has two parcels totaling approximately 14 acres. The special use is for parcel 003 Alpha, which totals about 10 acres. The development pattern of this area is residential, rural residential on lots of 4 acres or more. This graphic demonstrates the proposed location of the static display area for the prefabricated housing units, as well as the existing parking area, which would be used for customer parking for the housing use if it's approved. There is an existing well drilling business. Again, it's a legal non-conforming use recognized by the Development Services Department. The property does have an existing office building and several accessory structures as storage areas. There's a lot of well drilling equipment on the site. There's also an existing residence on the property. Again, this is an unoccupied residence on the GB to the south. There is a general business zoning to the south, as shown on one of the graphics, that was done back in 2000, and that's the only GB zoning along this section of I-10. Here's a few drone images. This would be viewing to the north from the south side of Interstate 10. Viewing to the southeast, this shows the majority, the two parcels, both 3 Alpha and 3 Bravo. Viewing to the southwest, this focuses more on the developed portion of the site, all of 3A and a portion of 3B. And this shows the proposed display and customer parking areas if the special use is approved. The static display will occur in that area with the well drilling pipe right along the frontage of Skyline Road. Section 2.48 of the zoning regulations identifies 10 factors used to evaluate special uses. In this case, the request complies with all applicable factors. Again, this request does comply with applicable factors. This is a developed site with an established non-residential land use, and the site is less than a quarter mile from I-10 exit 299. In order for traffic to reach this site, they do not have to pass in front of any existing residential parcels. Skyline Road functions as a rural minor collector road. It is in county maintenance. However, it is not hard surfaced. And this area does have a pretty obvious and more or less developed residential pattern. The applicant mailed letters as required by the zoning regulations on 20 April. Staff performed the notification process between 14 and 22 May. Staff mailed 18 notices, receiving 3 responses in opposition. Staff also received responses from 2 owners outside the 750-foot notification area. Madam Chair, this concludes staff's presentation for docket SU 2605. We are available for your questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. This is the time for the applicant's statement. You have 10 minutes. Would you like to come to the microphone and state your name and address?
Thank you. My name is Tammy Castry. The property address in question, 2794 West Skyline Road. I actually don't have anything to add to this. The coverage from the Planning and Zoning Office review pretty much sums it up for us. Appreciate the opportunity to present.
Good. Thank you. We may have questions for you later. Now we move to public comments. I do have some requests to speak. I also have a letter that has been distributed to the commission in opposition from Hanson and Patterson. Now we'll move to the public speakers. Audra Bidigan.
Good afternoon. My name's Audra Bidigan, and I've lived in the Skyline Road community pretty much all my life. My family's been there for well over 50 years. I'm here to express my concerns about the conditional use permit. This is a community where people raise families, relax, and retire. People move out there to escape, and we value our RU4 zoning. The truth is we love our rural atmosphere. We don't want commercial or heavy industrial in our neighborhoods. A neighbor reached out to the applicant prior to the meeting and received the following response. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. It says, good morning and thank you for your questions. Answers are below. No construction, because the question was, will there be construction going on in the sites? Like, would be Clayton Homes be using this as a manufacturing facility? The answer was no, display only. There'd be really no additional water usage, which is a positive, and that they would use existing clear channel billboards already established along I-10, so no more lighting, no new signage, nothing like that. I do have a question, though. If this permit's being requested under BJ Drilling, I was told that this applicant does no longer own BJ Drilling and is not affiliated with BJ Drilling. So I just want to be clear on what's being asked for here. And then my other questions were, how many prefab homes are being displayed on the site? How much traffic is anticipated? And I guess that's all I really had. I'm concerned about it becoming commercial or something other than RU4. Like I said, we really value where we live and our way of life. And I would be greatly disappointed if that changed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Michael Green.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Green, and I reside at 2807 West Happy Valley Lane, near the property that is requesting the special use permit. As of right now, I support the request for this permit as long as the entity occupying the property, which I believe is Clayton Homes from what I've heard, adheres to the parameters of the permit, meaning the property will only be utilized for, and I'll quote from the SU 26-5 notice that I got, only used for, quote, retail sales and display of prefabricated homes, unquote. As the owner of the property, and I would believe the county has learned, we, the residents, will be keeping a close eye on what transpires with Clayton Homes and any other transactions with the property. My main concern is water usage out there, and whether this was intentional or accidental. I personally would like to thank the people involved with this permit request for taking our concerns into account regarding the water. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Greg Schubest. Sorry if I butchered your name. State your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Craig Schubert. I live at 133 North Weldring Road. I live in the property that is to the north of the Jackson property, or the property in question. I've lived there for 29 years, and over that time I've noticed quite an increase in traffic on that road. At one time, you could go half an hour without a vehicle going by. Now you can go 30 minutes or 30 seconds to a minute, and traffic is nonstop. And this is a dirt road on my road and Skyline. And with the increased traffic of a sales lot, also, if they're bringing in these large homes for show, I don't know if you all noticed this, but the bridge going under I-10 is a single lane bridge. It is 15 feet wide and 14 feet 2 inches high. And the on and off ramps are very short. Now, when I get on the interstate, I sit at the bottom of the ramp, look in my mirror, and look for an opening, and then kind of get going up to speed. If for people who live out there, they kind of know what to do and how to get on the interstate. We start getting a lot of people, potential customers coming in, and I just see an accident or two coming in the near future if this goes through. The road is unimproved. When I first moved out there, the county graded it once a month. Now we're lucky if they do it every 4 months. Is the county going to pave that section of Skyline if this goes through? And there's a wash right there at the corner of the property. When that runs, it runs and it erodes the road pretty good. So, it is a residential area, and there are more and more people moving out there all the time. And I just see lots of potential problems and headaches coming in the near future. Also, light. I don't know if Clayton Homes is going to turn off their lights at night. Since my property does border that, I enjoy the dark evenings. We sit out on our porch all the time. And, when BJ Drilling moved a year and a half ago, they are no longer on that property. The property is vacant. And it's so much quieter now. I don't hear the back beeping of trucks backing. I don't hear pipes clacking around. So it's nice. And I would venture to guess that everybody out there would like the quiet to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak to this docket? Anyone else in the audience? Hearing none. This is the time for the applicant's response. You'd like to say something about what you've heard?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to take some notes, make sure I get them probably not in the same order that they came on. Lights would be unchanged. They're the same lights that have always been out there, and there are some nighttime lights. Ramp versus bridge underpass, certainly a concern. Any hoses that came in for display are going to have significant energy to set them up to be displayed. So this is not a sales lot like a car lot would be, where you would go look at a house and say, I want to purchase house number A. Let's move it off and bring another one on. That's an extraordinary expense that Clayton doesn't want to have. And if they're setting up for the display, those houses will be stationary there. The use of the ramp and not the bridge. Water concerns, I appreciate the comments from Mr. Green. Yeah, there will be no additional water usage. These are not houses that will be hooked up to septic or water or electricity or have separate lighting in the houses. Addressing the ownership concerns, we still own BJ Drilling and still maintain the lease of the equipment. The land, as you can see, has been substantially cleared. There is video vans and other equipment stored in the shop and in the hangar. We still maintain several thousand feet of pipe storage and use it as a pipe laydown yard for BJ Drilling. So we have reduced the traffic. Most of the retail presence is located closer to Sierra Vista now. So it has been a lot less traffic in and out of the office. But again, do not think that this would impact anybody in the sense that we're not traversing anybody's property to get there for the limited number of commercial people that would be viewing these retail houses during normal business working hours. I think I've covered the majority of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. This is the time for commission discussion. Questions for the staff or applicant? Anyone? No questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
I have a question. Skyline, is that going to be a paved road? Who's going to pave it, the county or the individual that's requesting this special permit?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Humphries, we were not going to require paving for this particular use. If we do see a rezoning in the future to allow a more intense industrial use, it's likely we will require a hard surface at least to the driveway of this parcel, or possibly continue on to Well Drilling Road. However, as of now, we don't see a need beyond county maintenance for any additional road improvements. But again, the applicant is very aware that the property is rural. But there is a legal non-conforming use for the well drilling laydown yard. The special use is very low impact. It's static display. Customer traffic is probably going to be fairly small. But in the future, if another use or an expansion of this use were to be proposed, we would likely require rezoning. And at that time, we would look very seriously about hard surfacing Skyline.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question, just mostly to clarify. This special use is strictly for the display of manufactured homes. It does not in any way, well, I can't use the word legit. It doesn't make legal the non-conforming current use. That just continues to exist side by side with the special use, right? Is that how to look at that?
Yes, Madam Chair. The county has recognized the legal non-conforming use for the well drilling business. That will remain as is and can continue without any, there are expansion provisions within the zoning regs up to a point. So it continue operation as is. The special use would be an independent action taken by the commission to allow this one additional use.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Benedict?
Yeah. Mr. Taylor, I was curious. In a case like this where we have multiple special use permits on an RU property, why wouldn't this be a better case for rezoning to GB now versus another special use?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Benedict, the legal non-conforming use did not involve a special use. There is no existing special use for the property, just a legal non-conforming use. One special use would be permissible, and that's what the commission is considering today. And again, I've had conversations with the applicant talking about existing uses and potential future uses, and that at some point, if there was an expansion of the existing uses or the desire to institute new uses, we would be looking at a comprehensive plan amendment as well as a rezoning to GB or potentially LI.
And could I ask a question of the applicant, please? I guess my question would be, this has been given us, essentially it's positioned as you're just going to display homes. As I was going through the documents, it seemed like you may use the existing offices as a sales office. So could you just tell me how this will function?
Correct. We already use the existing offices. It's partitioned inside, so we would be allocating one office for the staff member that they would have.
Gotcha.
Their base of operations is in Tucson.
So it would be a little more intensive than just display. Display, I think, hey, I see those homes out there. There's a phone number. Let me call them. I want a similar home. But in this case, you will be having customers driving onto the site, parking, and going into the office.
Correct, if they choose to look inside.
And in your application, you said about 5 to 15 a week. And those are people coming into the office you expect?
That was the estimate given to us by Clayton based on their previous business in Sierra Vista that they closed in right around the COVID time, I think 2020,
Okay.
based on the volume that they experienced in Cochise County previously.
I think looking at this, I can understand why you do it. We all know in the county there's a need for affordable housing.
Definitely.
And this type of housing, you know, is something that fits within the current zoning, the current character. I just struggle to see, well, what do we do if business booms? And instead of 5 to 15 people, is there a world where you have 50 people coming in?
I can't see that happening. Their predictions are for a fairly low number, but a steady number. Their trends in Sierra Vista did not show that, and their housing sales in Marana and other locations have not shown that. Obviously, I didn't bring them to present with me here today, so I'm going on my conversations with their general manager.
Mr. Taylor, are there any provisions in there, let's say in a year this business blows up and they're booming, and we have 50 people coming in a week, 100 people coming in a week. I could see where some of these concerns about road maintenance may be legitimate. Are there any provisions in there that if they do see more than 15 per week, we could revisit this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Benedict, we have 4 special conditions associated with our recommendation. Traffic counts is not one of them at this time. As was stated earlier by some of the concerned residents nearby, I think we will probably hear if there's a significant increase in traffic and potential offsite impacts that would intensify over time. And at that point, we would reevaluate the special use permit, reach out to the applicant to come up with some sort of mitigation if we do see, I mean, we want them to be successful, obviously. But if that were to happen, I think that we probably would look at maybe approaching the applicant and proposing a modification to get a handle on that and address those traffic concerns.
So if this were to pass, essentially it would be up to the citizens to keep the county informed as far as traffic count?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Benedict, typically when we have an approved special use, we're not out there proactively looking for violations. We rely on our citizens to inform us whenever something is awry with the zoning regs or an approved special use, and would be the case here.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Benedict. Good questions. Helped me out. One more, please, for the applicant. Do you have a lease with Clayton, and how long? What's the duration of that lease?
We do not. This was a precursor to that. It was something we didn't want to sign before we approached the
Oh, I see.
appropriate.
Okay. What you doing?
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah. What would be your thinking? 2 years, 20 years?
Well, the next step for us is further discussions with them and make sure that they've got their signage secured. And I just would need to take this back to them and have those conversations. So I don't really have a firm timeline. I would be happy to give it to you if I did.
I understand why you don't have one. Thank you.
Oh, and to your point, can I ask one more? And will these homes be fixed to the ground or will you be keeping the axles on them, the display homes?
Oh, I didn't ever ask that question.
Because I could see a world where if I walk in with 50 grand cash and I say, hey, I want that house, does that turn into a scenario where they just hook up and drag it out?
No, they have designated their display homes as their display homes. They turn over their inventory only every couple of years, is how they described it to me. I've spent some time with them in Phoenix and in Tucson at their locations.
Thank you.
Chair, ma'am,
Mr. Montgomery,
I will try to connect a couple of dots if I can, okay?
thank you.
Regarding our citizens and our neighbors here, who was concerned about the maintenance of the road, that it used to be more often, but now it's less often, approximately half. In previous meetings, I could suggest, and maybe today too, county services are, some of them, on the block for a while because Cochise County sits at a 0% growth rate right now. There's no money really coming in soon. Other services in the county have been dialed back, and I don't know if paving dirt roads out in that remote area is part of it, but it could be. And with that in mind, I would like to suggest, with no money coming into the county, to encourage small businesses anywhere that we can would be a good idea. And if this development were to turn into a profit-making small business, that would benefit everybody, possibly trickling down to paving the roads or maintaining the roads in the area. But if nothing happens out there, then nothing's going to happen out there. And I think that it would be better if something did happen out there. So I would encourage a business to try. And again, we always know that there are no guarantees, and this commission does not guarantee success to anybody. But we try to guarantee the opportunity to get your own success. And that is my position today. Thank you.
Can I follow up to that?
Yes, sir.
I agree with Mr. Montgomery. We all know the current situation we're in with tax revenue. I think in a situation like this, if the mobile homes aren't fixed, I don't see it necessarily increasing the property value, which means the county probably wouldn't see any more tax revenue. However, I asked about general business. If this were to be rezoned to general business, I believe that's taxed at a higher rate. So in that scenario, instead of going through the special use process, if they were to rezone the GB, then not only would it go in front of us, it would go in front of the Board of Supervisors, and we'd be in a scenario where the county could generate more tax revenue off the parcel to possibly pave the roads. Although I'm not a tax expert, so I could be incorrect.
Good point. Sales tax increase?
Madam Chair, that's obviously there's been a significant change with the turnover in the board and a real focus on economic development that includes property tax revenue. As you know, in the zoning regulations, we have 10 factors we use to evaluate special uses, and increasing property tax revenue is not one of those, but it is an important component to discuss, and I'm glad we are discussing that. As far as improving Skyline Road, period, in its total, we don't hold all the right-of-way along Skyline Road, and until we do, it's highly unlikely we're going to see any major improvements to it. However, as I mentioned earlier, if we do have an intensification of use on this property that really does start to generate more traffic than just typical passenger traffic at a rate of 5 to 15 trips per week, we could potentially condition hard surfacing Skyline Road to accommodate the additional traffic. But as of right now, there's approximately 20 to 25 residences in the area. I would say we're not going to see a significant increase in traffic over what currently is there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I actually do have a question, yeah. How do we generally weigh interests of the community residents that have lived there for a long time, their property values potentially being affected by, say, a commercial business coming in?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Zumas, that is one of the factors that the Commission can consider as public input as one of the 10. So it does weigh in, obviously, because we do have folks that are on the ground. They live in the neighborhood. They're the ones that are going to be most impacted. And that's why there's a public hearing process, and it's a statutory requirement to have this conversation in an open forum. It's up to the commission's discretion as to how much weight they want to put behind the input they receive, whether it's in favor or opposition.
Okay, am I able to comment, or do I only ask questions?
You can comment.
Okay, so just in my profession as a real estate agent, this type of business moving in actually does affect property values. If you have a rural area that has, commercial zoning or even just a special permit that comes in, and there's a lot of business that takes place that maybe wasn't there, prior to that, you can see buyer desirability being affected, which does affect property values. So that's actually my concern, is for the property owners who've been there for quite some time. And, certainly I don't want to impede any business, coming in or in the county, but, I think my concern is for the residents who live there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I will just add to that. Through the months and years at this commission, whenever there is a proposal and there is somebody that doesn't agree with it, one of the common arguments is that it's going to either raise their property taxes or lower their value. And it turns out that never really happens. It's rare that it ever changes values at all. And I don't know what we just decided today on this one, but that is a pretty remote rural setting. And it's not, there's not a neighborhood there that people might be concerned about. And did I miss any complaint about property values raising or lowering?
I did not hear.
Yeah.
I did not hear one, no.
Right. So, well, that would be a good issue possibly in town, or in a city or a neighborhood. I don't know that it is out here. It's a very rural area. So.
So is this a time for continued discussion? I'm sorry, this is only my second meeting. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when it comes to property values, so in order to see a strict decline or an increase in property value, that would be something that you could, I feel, generally track from a broad sense. It would have to be probably at least tens of thousands of dollars, right? And that's generally not how it works with an increase or a decrease of property value when, say, commercial business comes in. It could be anywhere from, and I don't have, information on specific properties out there, but say the properties are worth, $350,000, a commercial business comes in and it could decrease them even just by $10,000, or something to that degree over time. It can continue, it can level out. It really just depends. But overall, I haven't, doing individual CMAs, comparative market analysis, especially in areas like this where there are special use permits or mixed zoning. I've actually seen, I've had to advise some people not to sell their property because they weren't going to be able to sell because of the commercial businesses that moved in. So it is a reality, even though it's not something that people, members of the public necessarily can track as easily. It is a factor. So I guess my question is, if that's not one of the comments coming from the public, is it a factor that I can still use to weigh in on my decision? Okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Zumas, the factors in favor are required for analysis by the zoning regulations. However, this is a very diverse commission with a lot of different backgrounds, both professional and personal. And I think it's up to the individual discretion of each commissioner to weigh those factors in their mind and how they relate to the impacts, not only to the applicant if it's denied, but also the folks around it that if it's approved. You have a lot of discretion in that as far as what you consider in making your decision.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Tucker.
I think there are a couple of other things that we also need to think about, and that is the fact that there are going to be potential sales here, and that these buildings are going to go on somebody's property someplace. which will increase the property values, which will increase the tax revenues. So there are some very positive potentials out of this too. I don't want us to forget that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
I have a comment about sales tax.
Mr. Umbries?
Are you going to get sales tax and present them to the county for cheese, or is it going to be Pima County or other counties? Because that's a revenue that we will be receiving here at the county, the sales tax on that mobile home.
Thank you for the question. Again, these are model homes, right, with the optimism of selling a home to be placed in Cochise County that would have a revenue impact of positiveness. If they make sales, and we would want them to make sales, that clearly generates sales tax that is generated based on that address. Yes.
For this county?
Yes.
For Cochise County?
The sales tax wouldn't be applied in Pima where Clayton is located?
I do not think so, unless somebody comes in and purchases a home and decides to place it in Marana. I would understand that. I would have to check with the accountants. But again, the thought is that these homes are
They're sold here in Cochise County.
to be applied to Cochise or placed on Cochise County properties, which are, as you know, very
An
diverse.
interesting conversation.
It is.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, right? I mean, they have the same conversations because they're based in Pima, and they do sell all the way up to Pinal from their Pima location, so, which is on Irvington.
Mr. Benedict, were you finished? All right. I think we should move on. Mr. Taylor, your summary and recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on the factors in favor, staff recommends approval of docket SU 2605 to allow display and sales of prefabricated housing with the following conditions. Number 1, a 50-foot right-of-way dedication is required along south property line of tax parcel 124070003A. Number 2, a maximum of 4 prefabricated housing units may be displayed at one time, and units must be a minimum of 20 feet from property lines. Condition 3, business hours are limited to 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days per week. And condition number 4, sales and display of prefabricated housing units only. Delivery and setup constitutes a separate use and requires rezoning. Standard conditions relative to condition acceptance, permitting timelines, and modification to an approved special use continue to apply to this request. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The devil's in the details. Something just occurred to me. If you're displaying the manufactured homes on the south property line, I presume that's where the county is asking for a 50-foot dedication. We need to make sure we don't plant homes in a 50-foot dedication.
Correct, Madam Chair. These are display units only. They're not going to be permanently set on the property.
Well, but if they are set even for display purposes, didn't you say they were going to be affixed temporarily, but affixed? No, not at all. The utilities will come to them how?
Nice.
Oh, they won't have lights? You can only show in the day? All right, thank you.
Daylight hours.
Anyone else? We do have a motion for approval on the floor. Let's take a vote. Ms. Zumas?
Nay.
Mr. Montgomery?
I'm voting yes to approve this.
Mr. Benedict?
May I explain my vote, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
This is an extremely tough one. We clearly have a need in this county for affordable housing. I do think in aggregate there would be probably a net benefit. Mr. Tucker brings up a good point that these houses would be sold that would increase property values where the homes are placed in the county. I think for me, I think this is a case where it would be better rezoned to GB. I don't love the idea of waiting for the citizens to tell us a year from now, hey, there's increased traffic on the road. Hey, this is starting to washboard out. I wish Clayton was here. I find it extremely hard to believe that if I walk on site with a big bag of money, they won't let me drag a home out of there. In this case, I'm going to have to vote no.
Mr. Gonzalez, did you join us? No. Ms. Fickett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
And I assume Mr. Saunders has not joined us either. All right, then I'll stop asking. Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Any individual disagreeing with this action has the right to appeal to the Board of Supervisors within 15 days. An application for appeal is available from the clerk at the office Monday through Friday or online at cochise.az.gov. Thank you.
This doesn't work.
Next is docket SU 26-06, cell tower on 7th Street in Sierra Vista. Is the applicant for Verizon here? Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, to approve this docket?
Yes, Chair Lady, I will move to approve the docket SU 26-06 with conditions of approval recommended by staff, the factors in favor constituting the findings of fact.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. Umbry, second. Thank you. Ms. Larsala, your report.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, this is the staff presentation for docket SU 26-06. An applicant requests to increase the height for a communications tower from 40 feet to 48 feet and 3 inches. The applicant is Christy Mobley on behalf of Verizon Wireless. The property is located at 430 North 7th Street. The site is located within the General Business Zoning District, is within Growth Area A, has a developing plan designation, and is currently developed with a commercial center. No change to the existing use other than the height increase is proposed. The property is within the county island near Sierra Vista and is less than a mile south of Highway 90. The subject property is shown here with a mix of general business, neighborhood business, and mobile home zoning districts. This is the property viewing from the northeast. This is the property viewing from the east. And this is the existing wireless tower with signage. The applicant submitted an elevation comparison showing the existing and the proposed tower, including new equipment. In 2019, a variance was approved to change the previous sign pole to the existing wireless tower and signage. This is the additional photo simulation provided by the applicant illustrating the existing and the proposed appearance of the tower. Section 2.51.120 requires communication facilities to meet specific zoning regulations. The existing tower already complies with these standards, and a building permit is required for the proposed equipment change. Section 2.48 of the zoning regulations identifies 10 factors to evaluate a special use request. Staff mailed 28 notices, sent out the legal ad, and did postings between the 13th to the 15th of May. The special use complies with applicable factors, is a permitted use in the general business zoning district, improves service coverage for nearby Cochise County residents, and no opposition was received from nearby property owners. No factors against the proposal were identified. Madam Chair, this concludes staff presentation of docket SU 26-06. I'm ready for questions and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Ms. Mobley, your turn. You have 10 minutes. State your name and address.
Hello, my name is Christy Mobley. I am here for this special use application of the Verizon small cell. Thank you to our staff presentation. She went over everything pretty well, but I'm open to any questions. There will be no change to the lease area. It's just the height increase to expand coverage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
I have no request to speak. Is there anyone online that wishes to talk to this docket? Hearing none, this would be the time for the applicant's response. We'll waive that. Thank you. The public hearing then is closed. This is time for commission discussion. Questions of the applicant or staff?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Mr. Tucker.
So this doesn't effectively change the strike zone. The strike zone for this tower, should it fall, still falls out into the street, right?
The setbacks were approved in a variance previously included in the docket. So the special use permit is only addressing the height. It does not address the setbacks that were previously approved.
Okay, so, but my question isn't about the setbacks, it's about the strike zone. Should the
Yes.
tower fall, it will actually fall into the street, right?
Yes, I believe that the setbacks are under the tower height.
Thank you.
Do you have clearance from the, ma'am? Do you have clearance from the electric company for this height increase?
We would not go into any of that quite yet until the zoning was approved, but we will do all of the permitting, FAA, FCC guidelines and requirements.
Okay, it's hard to tell. I mean, I would have to drive over there and stand under the lines, but you're awfully close to the electric lines.
Right, strike zone looks like it's going to take out the wires as well as traffic.
So, Sulphur Springs Valley Electric needs to address this. So when you're doing permits,
Yes.
I would contact them.
Okay, yes, we will definitely.
Even though you may not have any practical need.
Yeah, they do. Verizon will make sure that all of the surrounding area and everything is accounted for. If you take a look at the CDs, the poles and lines and everything are accounted for on those.
Mr. Tucker, anything else on that?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Oh, just a quick question for staff. That's an excellent photo. Is that one of your amazing drone photos in town? Or is that AI from deep space, or where did that come from?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, that was a picture taken by drone.
That you were flying?
Yes, correct.
Remarkable photo. It's usually much farther away and way up there. No threats from the local citizenry or anything? Okay. I always appreciate your aerial photos. They're very good. And then I would ask the applicant one quick question. The purpose is it for expanding business?
Yes, it is to expand coverage, so the whole community would benefit from the addition.
Of course, we all love to see business expanding these days. So this would help to do that, would it?
Yes, it would increase reliability, service, coverage.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one more question.
Mr. Tucker.
So this also includes increasing bandwidth to the local users?
Yes, the equipment will be swapped out,
Right,
but
okay.
the pole will stay the same.
Right. But the actual unit on top of it is designed to take better advantage of bandwidth saturations and such?
Yes, correct.
All right.
Thank you. I just have to say, I think this is one of the coolest towers I've ever seen.
Thank you so much. It is unique. Usually our small cells are on light poles in the right of way, but this is a unique one, so it's on the top of a sign.
Yeah. Didn't even realize it. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Benedict.
Speaking about the poll, I looked into this. It seems like there's less than a 1% chance, 0.1% chance of the pole falling. I identified 3 causes in the research. Typically, it's poor construction, high winds, or vehicle collision. To Mr. Tucker's point and the Madam Chair's point, I think in this case, there's an extreme chance that pole gets struck. Do you know if the pole was, essentially there's 2 types of construction. One, where it hits, it'll fall down. Or do you know if it's been engineered with any type of crumple zone? I saw some online. It's not constructed in that way.
No. Usually monopoles, so this is a smaller one. Once it gets up to a certain height, it will create that lattice structure to collapse on top of itself. But with this being a monopole and not reaching that height, it is not
Gotcha. Thank you.
designed that way.
Sarsali, your summary and recommendation, please.
Based on the factors in favor, staff recommends approval of docket SU 26-06 to allow a 48 feet 3-inch communications tower with the following conditions. The proposed communications tower should not exceed a height of 48 feet and 3 inches. A commercial permit shall be issued prior to the commencement of any construction activities or the placement of storage or materials on site. standard conditions relative to condition acceptance, permitting timelines, and modification to an approved special use apply to this request.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor to approve. I'd like to take roll call for the vote. Ms. Zumis?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, to approve.
Mr. Benedict?
Aye.
Mr. Umbreeze?
Yes.
Ms. Fickett?
Aye.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes, with reservations.
Okay, thank you. Chair votes aye. It is unanimous. It is approved. Thank you.
All right.
Any individual disagreeing with this action has the right to appeal to the Board of Supervisors within 15 days. An application for appeal is available from the clerk at the office or online at cochise.az.gov. Thank you. The next item is docket R26-02, Code Text Amendments. The applicant is Cochise County staff. The applicant proposes text amendments to special use criteria and development standards. Could I have a motion, please, to approve this docket item?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Tucker?
I move to recommend approval of docket R2602 to the Board of Supervisors, amending text of the Cochise County zoning regulations as outlined in Exhibit A.
Thank you. A second?
I
Yes.
second it.
Ms. Fickett, thank you. Mr. Taylor, your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. This is the staff presentation for docket R2602. Staff initiated request to amend the Cochise County zoning regulations. The proposed amendments would affect special use criteria and site development standards for communications towers, as well as certain agricultural and animal-related uses. I think the first question would be, why are we proposing these amendments? A development standard typically does not change a use. For example, a communication tower of 30 feet is still a communication tower at 40 feet. And as we just heard, the commission reviewed and successfully issued a special use authorization to increase the height of an existing tower by 8 feet 3 inches. Typically, development relief standard would be under the purview of the Board of Adjustment, which is a quasi-judicial body. I would recall, and the commission may recall as well, during the ADU accessory dwelling unit text amendment we did some time ago, where there was a change in state law that required counties to provide additional accessory dwelling units based on property size. And we took the opportunity at that time, because we had several ADUs come before the commission for an increase in the size of an ADU by 10 square feet, 20 square feet, 30 square feet. We made the change to change the purview of that from the commission to the Board of Adjustment, and from a special use authorization for a simple increase in square footage to a variance with the Board of Adjustment. And we would like to follow on with that. We feel that has been successful. We have had a couple go to the Board of Adjustment at this point. And we feel that the special use indicates a use, not necessarily the height or setback or site coverage or building separation requirements. So in this particular case, what we're asking for the Commission's consideration, and ultimately will be taken to the Board of Supervisors, is number one, to eliminate the special use requirement for a select number of uses simply based on height, setback, or site area. Number two, these development standards identified in rural, GB, LI, and HI for these specific uses we're talking about under this proposed text amendment would be moved to Article 2.51, which is site development standards. The Commission may recall the recent adoption of data center regulations, and that was an amendment to this same Article 2.51, which is where some uses we have specific site development standards above and beyond the zoning district or the growth area category that apply to these more intense uses. Again, this would shift development standard relief from the special use process to the variance process. The additional standards in Section 2.51 that we're looking at involve communication tower permitting, as well as setbacks for some of these facilities, animal and agricultural related facilities. It does increase the minimum site area for feedlots and identifies outdoor holding pen setbacks, which is something we really don't have in our zoning regulations right now. So the affected articles would be rural zoning districts, general business districts, light industry districts, heavy industry districts, and site development standards. And each of the uses that are impacted are shown under the zoning district. So we're talking about agricultural processing, communications towers, custom butchering, meat curing, processing, commercial riding stables, feedlots, stockyards, and auction barns. So to summarize the proposed changes, above and beyond the simple elimination of a special use requirement for development standard relief, the agricultural processing proposed changes to this section 2.51 require a building for processing, and we would actually reduce the building setback as it is right now from 300 feet to 100 feet. For the custom butchering, meat curing, and processing, this is basically, we could basically summarize this as a mini slaughterhouse, because that's what it is. It does involve the processing of live animals. This case, we're going to require an enclosed building that is not specified in the current zoning regulations. We feel that that's an important change to make. The minimum 300-foot setback does not increase. It holds firm at 150 to 300. And again, these provisions would be shifted. Excuse me, let me back up. There's a section within our zoning regulations 2.51130 that specifically identifies minimum setbacks for corrals, feeding areas, and pens, and other similar type of livestock related structures. So we're referencing that section for additional setback requirements for ancillary livestock related improvements, such as corrals, for example. Feedlots, stockyards, and livestock auction barns. This is one change that we are making more intensive. We are proposing to increase the minimum site area from 20 to 40 acres. It's pretty unlikely you would see a commercial feedlot of 20 acres. That's not a very big site. And we do not have minimum setbacks for holding areas or holding pens. So in order for us to increase and identify a significant enough setback that we feel could actually benefit the people that may be living in the nearby the proposed site, would be to increase the acreage. A 40-acre parcel, basically, I believe, is about a quarter mile by a quarter mile. So we're proposing an increase to 40 acres, a 150 setback specifically for the auction barns, a 1,000-foot setback for holding pens and manure storage or collection sites. We do not have any standards for those right now. Riding stables, right now that will not change. These are commercial stables that require a minimum site area of 10 acres. That does not change. But we will be adding some supplemental regulations to section 2.51 along with these other uses. These last two uses are the more intense land uses where we really wanted to focus on bolstering our development standard requirements to limit those offsite impacts. This type of full-blown slaughterhouse meatpacking facility requires an enclosed building. It does not expand the 300-foot building setback, but it does offer a range from 150 to 300 depending on the type of structure involved. Again, we'll refer to the section for livestock-related setbacks for corrals, feeding areas, and things like that. Again, this would also add a 1,000 setback for outdoor holding pens and manure collection. So we don't really anticipate this use necessarily would have a significant number of holding pens or animals outside, but it's possible that they could. So we needed to account for that since we've already done that in the lesser extensive custom butchering use. Wireless communication facilities. This commission, just in the short time I've been here, I think has approved waivers for 3 or 4 wireless communication facilities, and a couple of those have just been for height, like the one today. They weren't even to allow an actual use. The use already existed. It was just an increase in height. So in this, the proposed change here would be the commission would no longer see a special use authorization request to increase the height of an existing tower. That would fall under the purview of the Board of Adjustment and require variance. And these height restrictions per these 4 zoning districts are identified in the second bullet. The maximum height in RU is 30, the maximum height in GB and light industry is 40, and the maximum height in heavy industry is 50. We currently require building permits to change equipment, but that doesn't say that in our zoning regulations. So we wanted to make sure we specifically identify that requirement as part of this text amendment. And lastly, we don't necessarily recognize the prominence of federal or state regulations when it comes to these facilities, and we want to add language to make sure that that's accounted for. And in those cases where the state or the federal government has in effect preempted the field, for lack of a better phrase, that we make it clear that those still maintain a preeminence over county regulations. And that would involve, for example, the Telecommunications Act of 1996 would be a good example of that. So this graphic just gives a couple of examples of what the changes are going to look like. Under agricultural processing, there's 2 bullets. The first bullet basically removes the 300-foot setback reference and directs the reader to Article 2.51, where we have the supplemental use standards, and then eliminates that special use requirement based on the setback. And similar with the communication tower, we're going to refer the reader to the existing provisions within 2.51 and eliminate the special use requirement for a cell tower that exceeds the height district, the maximum height, 40 feet. And I will read through the last one, commercial feedlot, very same approach on all of these uses. Our intent is to simplify the process for the applicant and and not continue to have the Planning and Zoning Commission, whose work is very important, continue to approve variances as part of a special use. A little bit about the Board of Adjustment. Section 2.60 of the zoning regulations identifies a role of a board. I heard a long time ago when I first became a planner that zoning regulations are in effect incomplete if there is not a provision within them to allow an applicant to apply for a variance to seek relief due to circumstances beyond their control. That's pretty common. And that's the principle we're applying here with this text amendment. So the board has 3 basic rules. One is to hear interpretations. That can be initiated by staff or by a member of the public. Appeals of interpretation. So if a staff member, if the county receives an appeal request from a member of the public, we make a decision. The appealable body is the Board of Adjustment. So those would be the first 2 interpretation related functions of the board. And of course, the last would be variances. And the variance definition is below. And we do feel that when it comes to these development standard waivers through the special use process, again, based on the description within the zoning regulations, the board is the appropriate body for those. There is a public hearing required, very similar to what we do with the commission. There's a minimum notification area. We have to post the agenda, we have to post the property, and we have to mail notices. There is a findings of fact. The Board of Adjustment has 8 findings of fact when hearing variances. And lastly, the Board of Adjustment, if they make a decision and an applicant is aggrieved by the decision, there is an appeal process that does not go to the Board of Supervisors like the special use does, but it in fact goes to Superior Court. Madam Chair, that concludes staff's presentation for this docket. We are available for the commission's questions. And of course, staff is recommending approval of the proposed text amendments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Assuming no one is online to comment on this matter. No, nothing. Commissioners, questions?
I have a comment, Madam Chair.
Mr. Taylor.
I spent 15 years on the Board of Adjustment in Yuma County before we moved here. And these are exactly the things that the Board of Adjustment dealt with there. And it was a huge relief to planning and zoning because planning and zoning could do planning and zoning and not worry about some fool that wanted to put up a 90-foot cell tower. And it dealt with issues like, the Board of Adjustment could ask the questions about what happens when this thing falls. And again, they have legal authority that we don't have.
Well, I agree. I think this makes a lot of sense.
I think it makes a world of sense in making it easier for us to do the job that we're chartered here to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Montgomery, go.
Okay. With that in mind, and I appreciate your experience there, my concern has always been for the citizen or the applicant to have some avenue of redress or an appeal, so they don't just get slammed and kicked out of the building. I want them to be able to appeal to somebody. I don't know how that works with the Board of Adjustment.
So the way that it worked for us, and it's legally defined by the state of Arizona. Arizona revised statutes has the way that that's authorized, but they have a meeting just like this. And people come and make their statements and complaints and all of that. And then the board makes a decision. If the applicant objects to that decision, then they have legal recourse.
Well,
so the Board of Adjustment is the last stop before the courthouse.
So, but that is the courthouse where they'll need to hire a representation, a lawyer, spend infinite money perhaps, and approach that. Whereas to the board, the commissioners, anything that is appealed goes to the supervisors. That's still, I guess there is a fee to appeal to the supervisors, right? Is that $600? Okay. At least, and we've seen that happen here successfully to those who are really dedicated to their hopes and dreams. They'll spend the $600 and so far they've prevailed in our experience. But if you take that out of their hands, did one not pass? I don't remember the scorecard, but
I don't think we ever heard one that would be a, Board of Variance, Board of Adjustment. I don't think we've ever heard one that would have gone to them.
I was referring to us though, and the supervisors. We've had a couple of appeals of these, right? Okay.
But if they go to a board of a variance to Superior Court, think about the fees, what an attorney. So they will give up, walk away. But if they go to the Board of Supervisors, less fee for anybody to appeal that.
And I can also
think about that.
Emphasize at the Superior Court level, if any applicant or any person shows up in the Superior Court without a lawyer, they're doomed. That 99-1, they're going to lose no matter what.
Let's hear from Mr. Taylor about this and maybe Mr. Whitehead.
I would just say very quickly, Madam Chair, that my personal experience has been for folks that ask for a variance before the Board of Adjustment and are denied, and those that seek relief through filing in Superior Court, the majority of my experience has been they don't hire an attorney. They go in prepared. They go in with, they petition the county for all the supporting documents, staff memos, presentations, minutes, and everything, and they go and make their case as to why the board was in error in its decision. And typically that analysis is going to focus on those factors in favor, and that's fairly straightforward. Notwithstanding the point that's being made here, some folks don't understand it. It's very much an educational process for them, but I wouldn't agree necessarily that if somebody is not able to obtain counsel, that means that they're wasting their time or the court's time. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
I had the occasion of going to the Board of Adjustment in Douglas for a variance on a carport. It cost me about $4,000 to $5,000 to hire an attorney because I couldn't represent myself in court. Is that correct? The county attorney?
You could represent yourself.
But you have to have everything according.
I mean, legally, you can represent yourself unless the one who's appealing is actually an entity, like a incorporation or something, in which case then you would need to have an attorney represent the entity because one of the co-owners of the entity or the people and members of the LLC, et cetera, they're not actually the entity, so they can't represent themselves, but others can. Any individual can. A carport, I would assume, yes. The practical effect of will they be as prepared as an attorney? Obviously, no, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the Board of Adjustment won't give them some leeway and try to look at the actual argument that they're making, but it's a higher burden as it is, even if you have an attorney, to overcome the discretion of a Board of Adjustment.
Because you do have an attorney presenting, or in my case, the city had their city attorney.
Yes, I'll be going to represent the county at an appeal in the next, in the next month or so.
We're trying to keep you busy.
What's the historical statute? What's the reason for the difference? Why can't the Board of Adjustment Appeals go to the supervisors? What, is it it's just technical things?
Yeah, that's statute.
But I mean, why? Is there?
I don't know which statute it is offhand, but I know it is in a statute that goes to the Superior Court.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Statute.
The board is specifically given the authority to grant relief from the zoning regulations, which makes them a quasi-judicial because they are bending the law, if you so to speak, granting relief from the existing regs, whereas the commission is more of a recommending body. It does make the final decision on special uses, but this is more of a legislative body than a quasi-judicial body.
It makes sense. Do we know how many appeals result from our Board of Adjustment? I mean, have there been 2 last year or?
We've, Madam Chair, I've been with the county approaching 3 years, and we've had 1 within the last 3 years that was appealed to Superior Court.
Okay.
As I'm understanding this, I at least tentatively favor keeping that with the commissioners because it's a step closer to the people and they see us and they know us, they can. And if they lose here, they can appeal to the Board of Supervisors. And I think if they lose there, they can then go to Superior Court if they want to spend the money, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have to skip us and go to Superior Court. They get an extra chance here. And that's what I'm all about. And that's why I'm on this commission, is to represent the citizenship as much as I can against overbearing government and agencies who are not friendly to the little guy. So, and not saying they're always right, because sometimes they aren't. But that would all be sorted out, and I would like to keep this function within the commission.
I do want to reply to one thing. The people that sit on the Board of Adjustment are like you and me. Mm-hmm. They're here to do a job that's pretty well stated. Mm-hmm. And so when we were on the Board of Adjustment I served on was very conscious of the needs of the people. But there were some things that came before us that just did not make sense to do. It was bad for the county.
Yes, of course.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Bennett?
could I chime in? I couldn't agree with you more on this one, Mr. Montgomery. I like, just like Mr. Taylor mentioned earlier, I think our strength is that we do have a diverse background. We do analyze these things through different lenses. And if you were given a choice, if it was me, I'd rather be heard by 9 than in this case, you'd be given the power to just 3. And I also like the idea of it going to the Board of Supervisors versus leaving and going to the court, like Mr. Montgomery said. But to get some more clarification, Mr. Taylor, am I correct in that this is almost 2 separate issues? There are some text amendments in what was presented, and then there's the separate issue of who has the authority?
That is correct. Madam Chair, Commissioner Benedict, the intent here is to eliminate those special uses coming to the commission over a development standard. As far as the appeal process, the most appropriate way, and I'm kind of tying myself up here a little bit, but the intent is to streamline the process by going to the Board of Adjustment, which is the appropriate body. The commission obviously has the discretion. And again, I mentioned the ADU change text amendment as somewhat of an example of the appropriate process to take when it comes to providing development standard relief, because the standards are different and the authorities are different per statute. The alternative, we can continue to look at site development standards for these uses. And as you see on the screen, we specifically identify the variance requirement at the end. So we could strike the special use requirements in the individual zoning district sections and keep this and change that. Or we could just basically not move forward and keep things as they are, since that seems to be the consensus of a couple of commissioners, is to leave things as they are as far as the special use process.
Because I understand it, that's what I would prefer. Just leave it.
Could I get some more clarification though? You did make a really good point. So I agree with you completely, Mr. Montgomery. Keep the power with the commission. But you did bring up a point earlier. You said something about increasing the feedlot size from 20 to 40 acres. That's a separate issue than who has the power, right?
Yeah, Commissioner Benedict, that would be, we would like to see that as a site development standard addition to 2.51 anyway.
Exactly.
We would.
So is there a world where we could split our decision into 2 pieces? Meaning the text amendment, for example, increasing the feedlot size, that's one issue. And then who has the power is a separate issue?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Benedict, I think that we would have multiple motions and possibly corrected motions and a very complicated motion if we wanted to start piecemealing the text amendment that's most, I guess, palatable to the commission. We can certainly do that. The other alternative would be we had originally planned to take this to the board on the 14th of July. That's not a hard and fast date. If your direction is to us to work on this and bring back a revision for your consideration, we're happy to do it. I would let you know, however, it wouldn't be back until August, simply because we have a very robust meeting scheduled for July.
Could I throw this out there to the other commissioners? When I did my review, I think this is one where we should have a work session in advance. Anytime we've seen text amendments previously, like we'll see later, typically there's a work session and then we vote. I think the wise thing to do would be table this for now, get more information, let's do a work session, and then we can make a more educated decision.
So, Madam Chair, my recommendation would be if the commission's inclination is for staff to bring this back after some sort of a work session, then we would ask the commission to table this to a date certain, which would be August 12th.
I think that's probably necessary. I did copy all of this today, but it's not really fast reading or study material on a moment's notice. I would like to study it more in depth and then deal with it. Is that?
What prompted this text amendment? Was there an incident? Has something changed in customs or?
Yeah, that was why.
Why are we here? We understand the practical changes, but the moving the minor changes to the Board of Adjustment, what brought that on?
Really, that was driven by the ADU change because we felt that was the most appropriate course of action. And we've processed several special use applications for setbacks and height. And we thought, well, if we're going to do it with ADU relative to the square footage of an accessory dwelling, we may as well make it right for these other uses as well. I mean, this does not eliminate a permitted use status of any of these uses. We're not taking it's not going to be less rights for the folks who want to use their property. It's simply putting it in the appropriate forum.
Correct. And I will say, I mean, when we're applying the special use criteria to these sort of cases, they don't seem to fit as well as the criteria for the variance. They feel like they're a variance, but we're applying special use criteria. And so you're not as able to make a really good decision and maybe apply the right thinking and criteria to it versus.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I could add to that, a perfect example of that is what happened this evening with the wireless communication tower during the Sharon's presentation when we talked about the existing wireless communication provisions in 2.51. We really couldn't talk to any of those because none of them really fit.
What you're doing here, but I also really like what Mr. Benedict has outlined. And you just have a lot of thinking commissioners here. I guess we need those work sessions. And if we're willing to do it.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say one other thing from the legal perspective. Even looking at the one tonight, had the Board of Adjustment decline that, then that just immediately, now there's a lawsuit that has to be filed essentially, which then our office gets involved. I mean, we're happy to go to lawsuits and go to court, but that will just increase probably litigation. Whereas maybe it is more of a political decision in some respects that the Board of Supervisors might have just said, hey, we don't mind giving them an extra 30 feet. On the other hand, I represent Development Services, so and they're also requesting this change. So I can be fairly neutral on it, but I did want you to understand that ramification as well.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is that we need more discussion. So having said that, I'd like to request a motion to table to the August 12th Planning and Zoning meeting.
So moved. How's that?
That's good. Second?
Second.
Mr. Umbrice, Mr. Tucker first, Mr. Umbrice second. We will discuss this matter in greater detail at August 12th. Please. Sorry.
I just have one question on that as well. Is there any value in amending a motion to accept all the provisions except for the Board of Adjustment change? Was there any real, maybe could be some discussion on all of those changes? I don't know how many of you really are against those practical
No, I don't think any.
setbacks and so on, as opposed to the one or two. There could be a motion to just amend the approval, and you could at least accomplish 80% tonight if you wanted to.
I think you should address your question to staff, which is the most streamlined way to move forward here.
I personally would like to go through all of it because I like big bureaucratic government. I'm conflicted, okay?
Either way. All right. I think we'll move forward the way we are. We could have done that.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Umbrice.
The Board of Adjustment, how many members are in each district? 3?
Isn't it 1 per district? 3 total.
When did that change?
No, it
It
wasn't.
changed recently.
Maybe 2020?
Oh, has it been that long? Yeah, there used to be more.
3 and 3 for each.
We used to have, Board of Adjustment per district.
So if
It's
there's
one
one
each.
missing that doesn't attend the meeting, there's 2. They can run a tie. And here we can see ourselves here, 9 members. And we can have 2 missing like we have today. And we still can continue with the meeting. We have to think about those things.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
I remember that happening. I don't remember the reason. Don't want to speculate. So let's move on to our final item, a work session regarding impound yards. I just want to preface with work sessions are used to discuss matters brought to the commission. We just talked about doing one. Work sessions are publicly posted and held during an open meeting to allow discussion by the entire commission. The public may observe, but no public comments are taken. If there are changes to zoning codes recommended, a public hearing and vote will be held at a later date. Any changes to county zoning codes must be approved by the Board of Supervisors. Having said all that, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commission members, per the request of Commissioner Umbrice during the May meeting, staff scheduled this work session to discuss the zoning regulations. Standards specifically relating to impound yards. Slide 2 shows the current definition and the zoning districts for which an impound storage yard is permissible by right without a use permit. Vice where a special use permit would be required, which is in rural districts. We've included the definition of junkyards simply because impound yards and junkyards can be used interchangeably and there's some confusion. Impound yards are simply storage of vehicles. That's it. A junkyard or a salvage yard is where it's open to the public and people can come like a pick and pull, where they can pull their parts off and do a lot of other things. And they can also sell. And a lot of salvage yards across the country now have websites where they list their parts and their vehicles and folks can purchase online and get shipping and all that fun stuff. But I just wanted to include that junkyards is only permissible through a special use in heavy industrial, and it is an entirely different use from an impound yard. Slide 3. Currently, Article 2.51 of the zoning regs does not identify specific development standards for impound yards. The most recent text amendment to this article would have been to implement data center standards, which was a brand new use previously not identified within our zoning regulations. Impound yards is an established and identified use with identified permitted uses by district as well as special use requirements. Certainly, the commission just heard some conversation about Article 2.51 amendments and the importance, and for some of the more intensive uses, to have those additional site development standards above just the zoning district or growth area requirements. They can be very helpful. when addressing some of the more intense uses. So at the bottom of the slide, each zoning district has standards related to bulk standards, as we just discussed previously, setbacks, height, site coverage, building separation, as well as improvements to mitigate offsite impacts such as screening and landscaping. We do have additional standards, development standards specified by growth area. In this particular case, those are the big three that we typically will see when it comes to the growth area requirements. Screening, that is required by the zoning district, as we know. GB requires screening when next to residential. But I did just want to point out that in some cases where we might have a more intense use, such as an impound yard, particularly if it's going to be in a rural zoning district under a special use authorization and growth area D, some of these standards do not apply. For example, asphalt is required in growth area A, where 2-inch gravel or better is growth area C and D. That's a lower standard, of course. Landscaping isn't required at all in growth area C and D. It's only required in A and B. So the reason I bring these in is because these could be made mandatory requirements regardless of growth area by use in the site development standards, as opposed to making them discretionary on the part of the commission during a public hearing for a special use for an impound yard. So I'm not sure if all the commissioners are aware, but there is an impound yard that is very visible to passing traffic and has been brought up by a couple of our commissioners, particularly District 2 commissioners, who drive by it on a routine basis and haven't seen any improvements. There's another image here too. This property is actually at the corner of Highway 80 and Becky Lane. It does not meet the screening or landscaping requirements that we would like to see with impound yards. This is in growth area B, I believe. So there are some additional requirements here for screening. There is no hardened surfaces on site either. And this is a view of the property showing the frontage of Highway 80, and this would be taken from Becky Lane. Let's just suffice to say that it's substandard.
Where's Becky Lane? Sorry.
It's west of Douglas.
South, east Kingsland Way.
Okay.
Okay.
Where the Border Patrol is.
Staff did receive a suggested change to the impound yard definition from Commissioner Benedict, and we represented that on this screen. And these are suggestions and options for the commission's consideration. Number one was to amend the definition by quantifying temporary storage. And this could be a bouncing off point for us, where we eliminate the word temporary and actually quantify time period for which vehicles could remain on a site. There's a lot of tangential issues when it comes to these, because you start talking about title issues and tracking down owners and what happens if an owner is severely injured or worse. There's a lot that goes into this. 30 days may not be practical. It may be too short for some of these issues to be resolved, but at least it's a starting point for the commission to consider if it would like to amend the definition of an impound yard. Additionally, including this, which is an intense use, and potentially we might be looking at doing the similar for junkyards, would be to implement some of these other requirements throughout the zoning regulations and make them mandatory requirements and not just discretionary based on the location of the property. The intensity of the use is not necessarily dependent on the location, so some of these may apply. First would be that we would have a functional office with somebody on site during regular business hours, require minimum setbacks for stored vehicles so they're not stored right up against the property lines, require minimum driveway widths to accommodate two-way traffic and larger vehicles that are typically associated with this use, specific screening and landscaping and materials. And lastly, basically that we would require the improvements prior to the institution of the use. That seems to be a very prominent issue with some of the other impound yards we've had in the past. They seem to begin operating before they've gone through the complete permitting process. So here's a couple of jumping off points for the commission to consider. Again, this is a work session. We're not taking any official action today. This is a conversation to direct staff to work on some language for the commission to consider. As stated earlier, we do have a very busy schedule in July, so this would not come back to the commission as an actual proposed text amendment until the August meeting. So I hope this has been a helpful summary to the commission to think about where we're at and where we'd like to go, and we're available for your questions.
Bring this thing up about this impoundment yard. He has an option, but I don't think he really wants to. He has HI district on 23rd and Washington, where he can move those cars and disassemble them there on 23rd and Washington 25th. It was rezoned to heavy industrial. Are you aware of that? He has an impoundment yard there too, where it's light or it's heavy industrial, where he can disassemble the cars there. And this, maybe he can clean a yard that he has on Highway 80.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner Ambrose, this is more of a general conversation about impound yards as a use, not necessarily a specific business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. So whatever actions that we may or may not take really don't have any effect on existing businesses, right? So there's nothing that's going to cause that.
That's one question.
That it's hard to describe what that is. It's really hard to describe what that is. That's appalling. So this is just so that we can prevent them going forward. I think that's a significant thing we should undertake for the well-being of our county and our county citizens.
Can I chime in?
Mr. Benedict.
I appreciate you saying that. This is a massive loophole that we have to close up almost immediately. In the proposed text amendment to change that the 30 days, I just want to state that was Frank's decision. I was merely playing secretary on that one. Mr. Ambrose is really taking the lead on this, but we have identified that if we don't clear this up, the case you guys saw that is utterly appalling, as you know, in district, we're trying to work on the port of entry down there.
Right.
This is right in that area. So as we sit here and we designate opportunity zones, that's going to be one of them. Who would want to develop a site right next to that? And unless we close up this loophole, there's nothing stopping them from essentially just picking up and moving somewhere else.
Yeah.
And Mr. Taylor, I do want to thank you. I think these things, the biggest one is a functional office. That was one in our conversations I don't think we thought of, but how could you technically be an impound lot if you don't have an office for people to reclaim cars? And a lot of the feedback that we got from community members was that there was maybe some shady business going on with how the cars were acquired, and there wasn't even a process for how they could reclaim them. So I think your other changes, I just want to say I appreciate you putting those in there in addition to the 30-day language.
I do have a couple of questions about it, perhaps for council. What defines it as an impound? Who calls a yard of junk cars impound? Have they been impounded by the police or a court order? Why is it called impound?
I mean, technically, it's anything that meets that definition right there.
Well, doesn't that lend an authoritative type of image that it was impounded by authorities of some kind, when maybe they weren't? They just collected it. And they often do just collect.
We don't have one.
Some of that, I can answer some of these questions. Having been in that business before, yes, the vehicles we took in were ones that we were called by DPS, the Sheriff's Department, Border Patrol, a number of government agencies that would have us come in and tow a vehicle to our establishment. And from that point, then, I'm sure it's changed. This has been probably over 50 years ago. And that vicinity. But then we had to fill out paperwork, send it into the state. It probably is all digitized now. But then we would they would begin their process of trying to find out who the vehicle belonged to and whether that person would come and redeem it from us, take it. There was always fees against it for towing. We could charge fees for keeping it at our yard. It was so much per day. And so they would have to pay us those fees.
Were you called an impound yard?
Yes,
You
it was
called
an
impound.
impound yard.
So that is
Yes.
authoritarian.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
yeah.
And 30 days doesn't even begin to make it. Sometimes we couldn't get paperwork, depending if it was from out of state. If it was from New York, you could be forever trying to get. And I know New York doesn't have very good MVDs now, and they get titles and what have you. So it could be you could be a while getting one of these done. If nobody ever came to get the vehicle, then you could purchase it for and get a salvage title, or you could get a good title on the vehicle depending on the quality of the car.
Okay, if I may.
So does that help you?
A little, thank you. You have defined the authoritarian government structured impound process.
Yes.
And so are we defining that? Could we see page 6 with the photographs? Yeah, maybe that one, or 5, or any of them that showed the total. See those wrapped bundles? I've gone by here several times. What is that? Do you know?
That's for the sewer from the college to Douglas.
Oh, so it has nothing to do with
No,
that.
those are
Okay.
manholes.
Thank you. Then how did that particular lot assemble itself? Just over the years?
In the impoundment yard,
That one, yeah.
it was, if I'm not correct, they applied for a permit, didn't they?
It's really only been there 5 years, maybe.
So they did apply for a permit. And it's very interesting to see what kind of a permit, how it was issued. Was it issued as an impoundment yard or a junkyard or whatever?
So is there going to be a difference then between a government, a police, or a court-ordered impound lot and a privately owned parts assemblage? Is that a different thing? They're not going to both be called impound because those were not impounded.
We determine the use in part by however the applicant comes in and says, we ask, what are you doing? And they say, I'm operating an impound yard or a junkyard. If we think they're doing one thing and they're doing another, the burden of proof is on them to prove they're not doing.
There is a history, not too long ago, within 2 years in Cochise County, of a place, which leads to my question, how many vehicles constitutes an impound yard? How many can a person have? 5? 100? How many?
There's no cap.
There's no number.
Just as long as they're licensed.
However, that has been imposed on people because they've complained to me about it. Their solution was, and it was mentioned in here, a 6-foot netting fence around.
GPS.
That solved the problem. But the number that was imposed on those individuals was arbitrary. So, well, you can't, you have 10, that's too many, you cannot have 10.
You couldn't
Well, says who?
pick up cars.
So, I agree with covering up the mess, but I don't agree with arbitrary enforcement, a whimsical number that's just made up from one day to the next. Okay? Therefore, Chair, ma'am, should we have further discussion on this too?
This is it.
Could I chime in, Mr. Montgomery? I think you make a really good point. As I scroll in on these pictures, and I've been by the facility, it might be, we might be wise to define what impound actually means. If you zoom in on here, you'll see things like it looks like an old prison bus or city bus. I highly doubt that that vehicle was impounded. This to me looks like there's some kind of personal storage going on. And Ms. Fickett, maybe you could chime in. We originally thought 30 days was sufficient time. Having worked in the business, what would you recommend is a time limit?
I don't know. You have to give them, would you say 6 months at least? maybe more.
Also,
Yes.
So could we maybe amend, instead of 30, do you think 180 days gives the proprietor more than enough time to sort out title issues and get the vehicles off site?
It'll give them sufficient time, but I wouldn't say it was, it depends on where they came from and what kind of research they have to be done to find out where they came from.
And I think that gets to Mr. Montgomery's point. Maybe we need to define what impound actually means, because to me that implies some kind of a agreement with a municipality where you're providing a service to the municipality. Coming from the city, you get your car towed. I've been to these things many times after not paying a parking ticket or a parking meter when it gets impound. But if we don't have a definition of impound, I could just see where in the future they're going to be storing private vehicles. Also, if you look out there, there's 18 wheelers being stored that look like they're operational. It almost seems like to me, at least in this case in Douglas, they're using it as a trucking yard. So if we don't define what impound is, meaning it was towed for some kind of violation in a municipality, we'll still leave ourselves open, I think, to a lot of this gray area where you'll see other things being parked there.
And actually, if a vehicle's impounded, you've been contacted by some government agency to go and tow that vehicle in. Like we used to have to tow in the ones off the freeway. Somebody broke down out there. They were allowed to sit there. I don't know how long I've seen them sit there longer. At that time, it was 3 days. And they tagged them, and then we could go out and pick them up. DPS would contact us, and we would bring them in, and then the process would start us filling out the paperwork, which was always a lot of work. But then, people either came and got them or they didn't. And but you should have paperwork that says that's an impounded vehicle.
Okay. Do you mind, could we scroll
in your
back to some
possession.
more photos of that?
Thank you.
I don't want to beat this to death, but that's been there a long time. I suppose the county could impose a fencing or something to cover it up. And many times that is the solution. It's just a fence, a solid fence of some part, a screen fence. We've dealt with that before here.
Well, these are site development standards that you're referring to, and I think, Mr. Taylor, your requirement of having those in place before they begin operation, I think covers that. Again, getting away from that picture and that horrible situation down there.
Mm-hmm. To the big picture.
I think you're going at it backwards. Help me flesh this out. You don't want to say no more than 30 days. You want to say legally impounded. In other words, you have contracts with Border Patrol. You have contracts with DPS. You want to say legally impounded, appropriately recorded in the functional office, and provable that those vehicles are all impounded and not stored.
Yes.
Yes, is there a way that we could, Madam Chair or Development Services,
And not having done it in a long time, I'm not sure what they issue now exactly, but you can't just go out and tow them in an impounded vehicle. You have to be contacted by some agency to do so.
so as a requirement, a condition that says before you can start your operation, even though we'll permit you to develop it, before you can start your operation, you must present to us all the contracts that you're getting with various entities. And then we must be able to, let's say annually, come and inspect all of your vehicles, and you must show evidence that all of them have been given through one of those contracts. Something along those lines, I don't know.
So you're all into government operation of some sort right now. And that might find to do whatever needs to be done with that.
Which we don't have staff for. So again, we're going to create a code that says you have to do this and you have to do that, and then we're going to sit and wait for somebody to prove that you're not doing it. We don't have the people to step out and inspect.
I don't like that.
So
I think that you need to talk with ADOT maybe. They seem to oversee the MVD part. I don't know if there is MVD anymore. I guess there is still. They seem to oversee some of that and kind of police that process. And I've been out of it so many years now that I'm not sure exactly what that is. But to have a record, you have to, I'm sure you still have to have a permit to do so and operate in that manner. So I think that some of the things we're talking about could already, the state may already have those regulations that you can play off of. I just don't know what they are. I'm sorry.
I don't mean to keep interrupting, but I do want to make a distinction between that, some kind of government-inspired operation that needs to be inspected for this and that and that thing, or a common citizen who has a collection, likes to tinker with trucks or build engines or something, but has to do it. There are already 100 codes for that. You can't do it in the middle of the street or midnight.
That's fine. We're keep circling back.
I want to make the distinction between private and public.
Well, and I'll mention our greatest leverage is at permitting because they have come to us. They want a permit. They want a certificate of occupancy. They're requesting something. And so really, and focusing on things that could have a potential offsite impact, that's the function of zoning. So that's why we're talking about screening and landscape and setbacks. That's the sort of thing that really belongs in the zoning regulations and that we have total control over when they come in and they bring a site plan and they're asking for a permit. So the things that I'm seeing right there, those are really good ones.
Those are easy. It's the definition.
I won't harp on this anymore. My last distinction, though, because I know guys, and they've come to me about it, and they do have a bunch of cars and trucks, maybe a bus or two out there, remote area, and got eventually some complaints after 20 years, and had to fight over it. Private citizen, not a government agency of any kind.
And that would never be defined as an impound yard. I think we can put that to bed. Right?
That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah, we can't come and apply the word impound to a situation that already exists.
Okay.
So your situation in Douglas, is there a code enforcement? So that,
yes.
Yeah, so it's being handled to the best of the county's ability at this point. We're kind of doing something else here.
Yeah, I want to ask you, do you have a definition of what an impound lot is? If somebody comes to you, say I come to you and I say, I want to put an impound lot in the lot next door to my house.
It's this, except for we don't define temporary. Okay. So it's that exact language without the 30 days.
But you don't also define impounded, which is the key term.
Yes.
Yes, because right now it's just simply, it doesn't mean anything. It's just the storage of vehicles for less than 30 days because we don't really have a definition.
Storage, let's shout impound. Don't put any time frame on it. It's not possible. Agreed. As long as they're difficult to do. As long as they meet the definition of impound, the impound, capital I, working with the proper agencies.
I can agree with that. I do have a concern that once these things start, when the rental business, the little, rental box business that you can go out and put storage in, their business is you never come back and get that stuff. And so my concern is, do we have a facility or a vehicle that allows us to prevent that so that you don't go someplace and somebody's got a vehicle that's been there for 5 years and it's not roadable. You have to winch it up onto something and drag it out.
I'm not sure how to do that. The site development standards can include acreage, not to cover more than 1 acre, not to cover more than 2 acres. But then they start going up.
Right. Did I miss why this has come to us today?
Because of the unsightly situation in Douglas.
That particular one?
Okay. But there's another one on 191.
There are more.
Growing into this big pile.
And I wish we could go backwards and solve all these problems, but
Mr. Tucker,
going forward, we can fix it.
I think you make a really good point. If you don't have a designated time frame, these things will just grow out of control and you'll have clunkers sitting there for 5-10 years. And to your point, Chairwoman Depew, if it truly is an impound yard, you should not be able to stack the vehicles because an impound yard is meant for in and out.
For taking.
Yeah, that should be a prohibition in Cochise County. We came at it backwards.
And you'll be getting another one in Elfrida. They're stacking cars.
Yes.
You can start to see them from the highway now.
Yep.
If they're stacking them, they're not an impound yard.
No.
Yeah.
So how do we define impound yard, and are we wise to put some kind of time frame, even if it's 1 year, even if it's 2 years? But if you don't put any time frame, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. So if 180 days seems reasonable, make it a year. But at least if you have some kind of time frame, these things don't grow out of control.
Wouldn't adding the no stacking of vehicles be a very simple one to eliminate a lot of these issues? Because that's how you know, even if they said, hey, we're going to be an impound, and maybe they are an impound for 10% of their vehicles, and then ultimately they just start bringing all kinds of stuff and then stacking them, and we get into those problems, and we have no way to control it.
Don't come through the gate properly impounded. See, we gotta get that word.
Yep.
If you're not coming from DPS or Border Patrol or the city cops, they're not technically impounded.
But you also,
Be there.
you also made the point, Madam Chair, that we don't have enough staff to keep up on that, to even know. There's no way, we can't go there once a year to say, have they come in? So there's really no way to enforce it.
Once the complaint occurs, we can get involved, which goes to a problem I think we have for another day, another discussion. What is our enforcement strength? I think we're very weak in enforcement. I think that's another conversation for another day.
And see what else.
One thing you need to consider is even if it's an impound yard, you're still going to have vehicles there that people aren't going to come pick up.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you still have that storage.
And that's why you hesitate with the time frames. I mean, what can you do if somebody won't come get their car?
Well,
Yeah, typically they, at least when I was in the city, they'd sell them, they'd auction them. There's a way to get titles.
Helped it all?
Just a point of clarification, Madam Chair. So this would come back to the commission in August. Would the commission prefer to see this come back as a second work session or as a set of draft language for your consideration and recommendation?
Can we, you make,
Yeah, that's. That's a.
Oh, yeah.
Then that's enough, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
But it would be, if we do have more time, maybe this is a good opportunity for the public to give their input. Maybe we don't completely understand what's best right now, but I don't think we got any public input on this work. In the work sessions, we can't have public input, right? Even that gentleman speaking technically isn't allowed, correct? So if we did have a public hearing on this, then maybe members of the public in Douglas, they could offer their suggestions. Is that how that would work? It just seems to me like we have to define impound and probably some kind of time frame. Even if you operate a business, I know we love talking economics, but it's never economically feasible to tie up your real estate with these vehicles just indefinitely. I refuse to believe anybody running a business after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years wouldn't apply for title, auction them, and get them off their lot.
A legitimate business, they would, yeah.
Absolutely.
Legitimate being a key part of. Yeah. But then anyway, yeah, you're right. It kind of sounds like we need to come back and talk again.
Yes, I agree.
And I do also see your point of, even though obviously if you're an impound facility, you're not going to be stacking cars because you'd be destroying people's cars, right? I do see your point of adding that anyway, just for the checks and balances, since we can't go out and inspect everything all the time. And, I think that it could maybe dissuade some, junk or, whatever, because it seems to me like there's like a mix of like junked vehicles as well, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Mr. Taylor, I hate giving you more work, but you seem to be the wisest of all of us. Could you prepare draft language? Come on. Could you put together draft language for us based on the conversation today? Maybe give us a starting block for next time?
We certainly can. And I would just make one point about the stacked vehicle issue. Recall that some of these vehicles are destroyed. I mean, they're basically mangled messes and they're not going to be recovered. So if an impound yard needs space, they're going to stack vehicles once they apply for that abandonment title or whatever it may be. So I don't necessarily think that that would be the best condition to differentiate between a salvage yard and an impound yard. It's something that we would look at, but I don't know that it would be a deciding factor in calling one versus another.
Many other counties have a rotational standard, a way to build your inventory has to rotate. As you said, a reasonable business would do that without being forced, but is there some way to?
I can sort of define that. If you're pulling in a wreck, which we did, brought in wrecks, generally those fall under insurance, and your insurance companies come in and do their magic thing and evaluate it. And it usually then leaves your facility to either be repaired or it goes to some wrecking yard somewhere that the insurance companies designate. So that's kind of where that goes. And I know that's still true because I have some friends who still do this. But so there's kind of a difference between something being impounded like from off the freeway or a DWI or whatever, and being a wrecked vehicle. So if that confuses everybody more?
That's I think the word storage should not be used.
I just want to protect the individual who got a lot of grease under their fingernails and they like cars. And they have 11 Mustangs in the backyard.
I just have one.
2 of them run.
Not applicable, Mr. Montgomery.
It's not an impound yard. It's a private property. Okay.
Not applicable.
I just have one Firebird.
In your backyard?
Yeah.
So
I don't have 11
Point of-
Mustangs. Okay.
point of
It's
what
got all the parts to repair it. We just haven't done it.
All right, folks, let's wrap this up. If we have another work session, there is no public input. To Mr. Benedict's point, if we come with proposed language, we can ask the public for input. So we need to state what we want to happen here.
Have the public come in.
I'd like to solicit input from the public.
So we go to proposed language for the August meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair. So we can keep the scope at adding a proposed definition for impound, modifying the current impoundment storage yard definition and expand that list or clarify that list of site development standards and come back with proposed text amendment for the 2 definitions as well as site development standards specific to impound yards. That would be a fairly narrow scope that we could come back and we could do that as a public hearing in August.
Okay. And I wondered if we were violating public, but you sent us proposals on the solar sections and the data centers, so you can send the commission, correct?
You can, yeah, just don't copy everybody on the response. Just send it directly back to staff.
All right.
Any suggestions?
So yes, that would be good if we could see that in advance and have input.
Yeah.
All right. Are we closing this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat it to
Yes.
I think we have.
Is it in submission?
Ms. McLaughlin, would you like to give us the report?
Yes. Tomorrow night, we have an open public meeting regarding the county's first ever affordable housing plan. It's 5:30. It's here, and you all are welcome. It's also on Teams if you can't make it back, but I'd love to have you. Next month, July is a busy meeting. We have 5 special uses. We have 1 joint plan amendment rezoning and 1 regulatory item. That's the building code update. You'll provide a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. We had a Builders Forum, a Builders Roundtable on May 28th. There's been an open public survey for the building code. We just had a work session with the Board of Supervisors. And I anticipate bringing that on July 14th for their approval, hopefully, of the building code update. But you guys will get to hear it too and hopefully provide a recommendation to them. We'll also, on the July 14th, be bringing a code enforcement nuisance abatement ordinance. We currently, we have a limited amount within our zoning regulations that addresses code enforcement. Usually when somebody is under action, it's typically they haven't applied for a building permit and they're required to, or outdoor storage. That's one provision that consistently gets code enforcement action. We're looking at doing a comprehensive kind of framework for our code enforcement, modernizing it, using all the tools that are available under ARS for our disposal, and kind of beefing up our cost recovery. We think it's some pretty good ideas that we would put under one ordinance. So that would, on July 14th, hopefully move forward to the board. On July 25th, we're going to have 2 work sessions with the board you might be interested in. One is on port authorities, and one is on the affordable housing plan. That will follow our public meeting, but again, it might be of interest to this board. And I believe that's all I have for now.
The solar.
Solar
invite.
We can't do it in July, and we have 2 text amendments in August.
No, I mean, the commission was invited to go see the Javelina Solar.
Correct. Yeah, field trip. Field trip on Friday for anybody that is available and interested.
Not day after tomorrow.
It's weekend. It's Friday.
No,
This Friday.
time was
Next
a
week.
8 o'clock in the morning. It's, hold on a second.
June 19th. That's correct. It's not this Friday.
8:30.
I think that should be very interesting. So a lot of things coming up.
Yeah. Can I ask a quick one to you, Christine? I think there was some talk in the Board of Supervisors a while ago about crafting some language around these new battery energy storage systems. Did that ever go anywhere?
The zoning regulations?
I thought so. Yeah, loosely in my back of my mind, I can remember something. Didn't they mention something about that, about maybe beefing up the language around the BESS systems?
We could. It would be potentially a text amendment, possibly the fall.
I think that might be wise. It seems like the current trend is everybody who's putting in solar panels, it seems to be those new storage systems are going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And their strategy is to let it burn.
I know. Wasn't that crazy last time?
That scares the poo out of
I
me.
know. Well, and especially in a case like, I know, I won't talk specifics. But yeah, definitely, I think we should look more into those.
That's one of my questions for next Friday.
I think the safety is evolving on that, so maybe the fall's going to be a really good time to revisit it.
Totally.
So,
Quick question.
Mr. Montgomery.
Did you use the words loss recovery a minute ago? Is it related to code enforcement?
Correct.
Is code enforcement, by the way, has that department cut a little bit because of budgetary reasons?
No, actually, we're looking at adding an additional code enforcement officer.
Several months ago, I'm told there were 4, they were down to 2. Are there now more?
At one point, we had 3 code enforcement officers. Maybe in 21, it went down to 2. But now, assuming the budget is approved, one of the asks from my department was to add 1 more code enforcement officer.
Okay. So a healthy business attitude in Cochise County would help bring in funds to pay those people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Good idea.
Anything else from the commission? Let's adjourn.